We're in a clickbait world, and everybody is trying to, figure out how to gather attention, look at the news cycle. It's everywhere around us. And so it makes perfect sense that people would feel that way. Also, if anybody has had that real life experience, I can imagine how hard it would be to imagine their experience being in a romance novel. It's like there'd be some sort of cognitive dissonance there. The reality is that, after I read the book, one of the thoughts that came to mind was, this could be a movie that helps people no longer ask the question, why did she say?
Hey, bestie. Blake Lively is all about women. She loves women so much, and she cares about what happens to us. She cares about our experiences and the harms and scariness that we feel and how it's an unsafe world for us. She cares so much about us that she filed a lawsuit for us. And her lawsuit, she said, was to stand up for other women who face egregious conduct on the set, right? But yet, the damages that she's seeking for this lawsuit have absolutely nothing to do with the conduct that she experienced on the set. Instead, Blake is asking for $650 million for reputational damage that she says tanked her beverage line, impacted her hair care line, took roles from her and production roles and acting roles. The amount of money this woman wants is bananas. Now, this recently was unsealed, but something else got unsealed, and it was a bunch of text messages or chats that were happening during the filming period and promotion of the film. And Colleen Hoover, her name hasn't been brought up a whole lot, even though she's the center focal point of this. And I've said from day one, the content and the source material is the root problem for all of the backlash. Because before they even walked into the door, only months before, Colleen Hoover had made a decision to sell a coloring book, an adult coloring book based upon the book It Ends With Us, a book about breaking generational cycles of domestic violence, DV. She wanted to turn it into a coloring book, and fans were outraged. They said it was insensitive. It was distasteful. Like, how are you going to profit off of that? How are you going to turn something so serious into a coloring book? But don't forget, she also sold nail polish. It was a marketing strategy to market off of domestic violence, Stevie. And so the criticism started to be that Colleen Hoover is glorifying DV. She's glorifying it by writing characters where the characters excuse the behavior. They minimize it. They romanticize the men that do these things, which her books do. The women are often broken and incompatible with being strong and well-suited to be by themselves, or even to know the red flags. She very much makes it as though all these guys that do these really bad things are irresistibly hard for any woman to resist. And the books were marketed to young adults. And so she's very much trying to get this into the mind of a young adult who maybe doesn't even have the best record or understanding of what a healthy relationship is. Put yourself in the young adult area, 18 to 25. Think about how much you knew about relationships and how much you didn't. Understand about healthy boundaries. And this is the kind of book that is influencing these young people. Now, I'm not a book banner. I'm not a person that says, we shouldn't have these books on the market. I just am saying that, the book was widely popular, very influential, and a lot of people were pushing back because they felt like she was sending the wrong message to young women. I'm not the tone police. I'm not the person that says cancel anyone, but that's why there was so much backlash. And something that was recently unsealed, which I want to show you first before we go into what Blake's damages are, because I think it'll help set the stage. Around the time that the film came out, Justin was doing PR and doing interviews. It is very clear in the content of what's been delivered that almost all of his answers in all of these interviews were scripted for him by Jenelle of what he should say and how he should answer questions. That's her job as a PR agent. So he was on an Associated Press interview, and she asked him, the woman at Associated Press asked him, what would you say to someone that says this film or this book glorifies domestic violence? And then headlines started getting circulated about what Justin was saying, what his response was to her claims of, to what it would mean for how do you respond to this? And parts of it were clipped out. Glamour ran a headline that says Justin Baldoni responds to claims that It Ends With Us glorifies domestic violence. Okay. And then it references. These articles reference the backlash that Colleen Hoover gotten because she was being accused of glorifying domestic violence. Okay. E! News also ran a headline that said Justin Baldoni addresses accusations that it ends with us romanticizes domestic violence. Apparently, the way that Justin answered these questions made Colleen Hoover mad based upon the text messages that have been released. But I want to show you what he said. It Ends With Us was getting a lot of backlash, the book. So when it was going to film, that backlash from the book carried to the movie, and there was a wide, massive amount of outrage. The log line was, "Sometimes it is the one who loves you who hurts you the most." It is placing love and abuse in the same sentence. And people felt like it was glorifying domestic violence. The marketing of the book and even its movie were marketed as standard romance novels with a love triangle rather than a story specifically about domestic violence and the difficulty of leaving an abuser. This is what led to readers and viewers going into the story expecting a typical happily ever after of a romance novel, only to then be shocked with the graphic abuse that's in the book. Then, there was a lack of trigger warnings both in the book and in the film. Colleen's choice to merchandise this book with cutesy nail polish and coloring books, like adult coloring books, forced her to have to cancel the project and apologize to fans and to book readers for being tone deaf. And the book was criticized for focusing on Ryle Kincaid, the abuser, being too good to be true, and that they focused on how charming he was, which people felt could lead younger, impressionable readers to see abusive behavior as an acceptable part of a passionate romance. Like that push and pull of like, I love you, I hate you, the honeymoon phase, and then the abuse cycle. So, there was already this massive amount of backlash, and Colleen was not happy with the way that Mr. Baldoni answered that question. Maybe it's because he said, it might be hard to see your story in a romance novel because there's nothing romantic about domestic violence. Nothing. So, in the middle of all the books of the film being promoted on the morning of the 12th, which is the day after that interview came out with the Associated Press, and those headlines started popping up, Justin asks everyone to get on a call. And we don't know the details of what the call was, but we know what the aftermath was. And it was Jamie Heath saying, Justin should not respond right now except for anything other than to validate what I said. You are full of emotion and you were reacting, and it would add to the fire instead of us trying to put it out. The last thing we need is Colleen speaking publicly about you in a negative way. That's all that matters right now, is to put out the fire. And then he said, I understand. And Jen put out a statement that he could use if he needed to, which would say, Colleen, from my heart, there's not been one lie that has come out of my mouth. I've been sticking to the same message of the movie, which you know I cared deeply about from the beginning. The headline is taken out of context, which you will see from the interview. I have loved and adored you for the last 5 years, and that hasn't changed ever. So headlines are coming out about the glorifying of domestic violence. Headlines are coming out about, why Colleen didn't write the screenplay that Colleen encouraged him to be and play Ryle in the film, and for whatever reason, Colleen was mad at him. So, the backlash about the glorification of domestic violence started with Colleen Hoover. Okay. It is that backlash that followed Blake and did not follow Justin simply because Justin, while on the publicity tour, validated victims of domestic violence, offered resources like No More, the domestic violence organization, spoke about the challenges of recovering from a violent relationship and why we should not be blaming women for staying, but we should be blaming the guys for the ones that are causing the harm. Blake, on the other hand, really very much tried not to even approach the topic. She tried to ignore the topic. She often said that it wasn't a film about domestic violence and was trying to lean into that marketing of it being a romance novel, or a romance book or film. So, the reputational harm that sprung up mostly for Blake revolved around the way she was responding to the domestic violence topic and the distance between her and Justin, and this conflict that was spewing between the two of them as to why he wasn't at the premiere with her. So, with all of that in mind, before Blake did this film, she already had a reputation in the industry of having feuds with co-stars. She was rumored to be in a long-standing feud with Leighton Meester from Gossip Girl. She had challenges on the movie Savages and had spoken ill about Oliver Stone. She had issues with Anna Kendrick on the film A Simple Favor, the first movie. She had conflicts with the producers and director, the producers of the film The Rhythm Section, which came out in 2020. The film was actually shelved by the studio because Blake had apparently tried to take over the entire film, implant her vision, and force them to do what she wanted. The studio was so tired of dealing with her that they at one point decided they weren't even going to release it because of how much trouble that she was putting them through. When it was finally released, it bombed. Blake was walking into this new film with Justin Baldoni. It ends with us, with licking her wounds of being someone with a reputation of trying to take over sets, trying to force her way onto the set in terms of like, I'm going to control my wardrobe. I'm going to rewrite the script. She was known to cause delays on set, show up late, not treat people very respectfully, treating like extras and assistants very poorly. She got married on a plantation. She had gotten backlash for her website where she was trying to be Gwyneth Paltrow, and she did a blog about being, a tribute to the antebellum. She got backlash because she just got backlash because every single thing she did, she appeared to not really have a very good idea about how it would be perceived. She came off entitled and arrogant and just really not nice. Not nice to people. Okay. And so when people started noticing that Justin was getting picked on, or what they perceived as him getting picked on and isolated, they went back into the archives and found all these videos of all of the proof of Blake having a bad reputation. This was her own words. This was her own actions. It was just how she treated people. All right. So, she is trying to claim that all of these impressions of videos that were shared were done because they boosted them, they elevated them, and they made everyone watch what her own words were, and that's how they smeared her. One of the key parts of her entire claim for reputational harm is that they lied that she did not speak about domestic violence. And then they put out all of these videos of her acting badly, to discredit her and cause her so that she wouldn't have any credibility if she were to ever speak out publicly. Huh. Yeah. Okay. With that in your mind, consider that now Blake is asking them to hand over damages, which she has come up with from what I don't know. But so it's separated into categories, and it's part of her third amended disclosures, and it says economic damages, lost earnings in the amount of not less than $56 million subject to expert testimony. Lost profits in amount of approximately $71 million subject to expert testimony. Pain and suffering and humiliation in the range of $250 to $4 million. That's for the sexual harassment. Reputational harm in the amount of approximately $34 million. Punitive damages, an amount not less than 3 times the amount of Miss Lively's actual damages. All attorney's fees and costs incurred by Miss Lively. She's running up the bill because she thinks they're going to have to pay. That's why she's doing this. So you're like, what? Where are these numbers even coming from? So she's saying lost past wages in the amount of at least $18.3 million, at least $17.5 million in relation to lost acting, producing opportunities from August 24th through trial. So she's saying that she's lost $17 million in acting or producing opportunities. So she would have to provide contracts that she didn't sign or that were taken away from her. She'll have to provide evidence of roles that she wasn't offered. At least $500,000 in relation to lost speaking engagements. At least $300,000 to $450,000 in relation to lost appearances. Blake Lively is someone that makes sporadic films. She made $3 million on It Ends With Us. She made $1 million on A Simple Favor. And she wants us to believe that in a year and a half from the time of August 2024 or yet to a year and a half, she would have been out $17.5 million in acting. No. By the way, she starred in Another Simple Favor. She has just signed on to a movie that she is supposedly going to star in and produce. Lost future wages in the range of $38 million. Lost future acting opportunities, $30 million to $35 million, at least $2 million to $4 million in relation to lost future speaking engagements, at least $900,000 to $1.3 million in relation to lost appearances subject to expert testimony, at least $5 million in relation to lost endorsement opportunities subject to expert testimony, and then $49 million in relation to Blake Brown Beauty, based upon Deloitte forecasts, which is a fake, imaginary projection that you might make based upon the possibility of, the best possible outcome for 2025. Lost cash flows are measured as the difference between the Deloitte projection and the expected actual cash flows for Blake Brown. The calculated terminal value is also discounted to its present value as of June 30th, 2025 using the same discount rate. The sum of the discounted cash flows and the terminal value is multiplied by Blake Lively's ownership percentage in Blake Brown to determine the estimated minimum total damages. What does Blake Brown Beauty have to do with It Ends With Us movie? Nothing. Lost profits for Betty Buzz Holdings $22 million. The calculated terminal value is also discounted to its present value as June 30th. The sum of the discounted lost cash flow in the terminal value is multiplied by Miss Lively's ownership percentage in Betty Buzz Holdings to determine the estimated minimum total damages. And then reputational harm of $34 million based on an estimated 65 million impressions of defamatory statements subject to expert testimony. What defamatory statements were made about her? If she said it was the videos of her own words. I have a theory that all these sanctions motions and all of these motions that she's doing for attorney's fees are because I don't think she believes she's going to win her case, and so she's just going to try to bleed them in fees through this process, but I don't think it's going to work. But a few things that are a huge red flag here in terms of like what her damages are. She has to be able to show that she actually lost jobs. So she would actually have to have a contract that she has to prove that she lost, not that she canceled. She has to prove that this was guaranteed income that was coming up and that she lost it because of this, which she'll not be able to prove. I guarantee you, she's double counting for reputational harm. And you can't do double recovery for defamation. It's the same injury. So, she's saying lost earnings and lost profits. One of the biggest problems here is that Blake Brown and Betty Buzz Holdings are not parties to this lawsuit. She cannot claim losses for businesses unless she pierces the veil of the corporation. And again, Betty Buzz and Blake Brown Beauty are not parties to this lawsuit. They are separate to her as a person. She can't personally recover their damages without them being parties to this lawsuit. Punitive damages are not valid, and they're not generally ×3. Those are determined and must be actually determined based on the proportion proven of harm to her, and they're set and fixed by state. She also has to mitigate the losses. So they're alleging losses from August 2024 as permanent, ignoring her own duty to mitigate. What does mitigate mean? It means that she needs to be able to reduce the damage to her reputation by trying to repair her own reputation by doing appearances, by helping her company, by promoting her company. She needs to mitigate her own losses. If she doesn't show that she's taking steps to mitigate what's happened, she'll have no business asking for future losses. And she's not disabled. She's not incapable of working. She is a fully functioning 38 or 39-year-old woman who has the capacity to continue to work for another 30+ years. There is nothing stating that she should get $650 million because she can never work again. Since this has all taken off, she has starred in the film Another Simple Favor. She has signed on to another film. She has been actively promoting her hair care line and her beverage lines. She has released new flavors of her beverage line. She has been awarded the Time Titan of the Year. She was named like one of the most influential people Time 100. Trying to claim that 65 million impressions of defamatory statements is a metric that you use to determine how much you should get for defamation. That's not how defamation awards are calculated. And one of the biggest again is combining corporate and personal, and then adding in punitive ×3, and not being able to prove that any of this has to do specifically with Wayfair. It's just extremely speculative. It's not rooted, in fact, it's not rooted at all in reality. And this is what I know from my own experience is that I'm getting sued, and he wants $20 million from me, and it's based off stuff like this where there's nothing to prove. There's no financials. There's nothing here. And all of this is subject to experts, meaning she's going to be paying millions of dollars just for experts. Remind you guys, this is supposed to be a case about sexual harassment. She's supposed to be standing up for women, but she's saying that this injury was so severe that she can never work again because of reputational harm. Reputational harm. And in the past several weeks, she has filed motions claiming that she can't prove the smear campaign because they deleted Signal chats. She can't prove that he sexually harassed her with the film because with the birth video because apparently she didn't get the video she wanted or she doesn't recall seeing it. She wants the judge to bar them from saying that there was no smear campaign. Do you know why she's doing all of this? Because if they take away everything for reputation, if all the FIHA claims go away, if all of the claims go that are for the aiding and abetting and the false light and all that crap and the defamation, if that all goes away, which is what Wayfair is trying to get rid of in the motion on the judgment of the pleadings, and we've already seen that the judge is uninclined to view some of these FIHA claims as FIHA claims, but rather they might be viewed as defamation. With that being said, if she doesn't have any of those reputational claims in there, that's why she's fighting so hard for it. The max she could get is a couple $100,000 for sexual harassment. Imagine fighting this hard on sexual harassment, but all you care about is the money. And you want to be recovered for the reputational harm. It was never about sexual harassment. It's why she doesn't care about sexual harassment. She doesn't care about proving those claims because she's not going to make any money on them. She only cares to prove reputational harm because it's a payday. This is like, in my opinion, legal extortion. And I know that's like not a thing, but the ongoing extortion of Blake Lively continues. And it's just so obvious to me that she's disconnected from reality. But she won't be able to prove that it's Wayfair that caused the problem. She'll have to overcome the fact that she already had a bad reputation, that she had all this other crap in her past that caused tons of issues. She's opening herself up to allowing other people to come testify that say, I had the same experience with her, and her reputation was terrible before she ever met Wayfair. She's opening up her past where it can be ripped apart, and they can tear it apart on cross-examination. She'll never be able to link any of this to them because it was her fault and Colleen Hoover who wanted this whole thing marketed as romance when it's not. And blame Colleen more than you blame Wayfair. Blame Colleen. I would blame Colleen before I would blame Wayfair. But you can't blame Colleen because she's not a billionaire. But there is a billionaire that you could blame, and that's apparently Steve Sarowitz.
So, I
don't see this going in her favor, and they just filed this like extension for time about, they're going to do these motions where you can exclude expert testimony, which expert testimony has a high bar of how it is included. They have to prove how they reach their numbers. It has to be verified, and if it doesn't follow specific point by point by point, it can get tossed. I don't even think this will get to trial. So, I think it's just all a whole lot of like in the future, but they have to pretend like they're going to trial, and Blake is going to fight like tooth and nail to keep that in place because she knows that if she gets those counts dropped, she's out. It means she will have fought for all of this time and spent millions of dollars in fees and millions of dollars in attorney's fees so that she could get $200,000 of an award for sexual harassment. Make it make sense. Every single motion is a way for her to make money. All this is to me is a cash grab. This is not about women. But tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye.